All right. Welcome, everyone, to a hallowed tradition here at Every Horror Movie on Netflix, our annual year-end, year-end review episode. It's me, Patrick. I'm back here with Chris.
Hello. Happy New Year. Almost.
And Steven.
Hey, guys.
And we are really breaking new ground, new technological ground here at Amon. We are on Twitter Spaces for the first time ever. So we're going to be running down our favorite, our least favorite horrors of 2021. And the Amon faithful have been invited to come and listen in. And as I understand, this is kind of like, and I'm very Luddite when it comes to this stuff. But as I understand, this is kind of like a little online radio call-in show. So the folks listening can pipe up and let us know if they want to, throw out a question or throw out one of their own picks. So we may have a little back and forth here tonight. And maybe there'll even be prizes.
It'll be like Donahue.
It'll be exactly like Donahue.
I was thinking more Alex Jones, maybe. If anybody's got some hot takes on the vaccine, bring him in.
Okay.
Listen, my hot take on the vaccine is I might have COVID right now.
Oh,
Wait, seriously?
Well, that's your behavior today.
Yeah, I was in close contact with someone who tested positive, and I feel a little strange. But here's the thing: when someone tells you that they have tested positive for COVID, and it makes you think like it's like the placebo effect. Like every little ache and pain, I'm like, oh, this is it. This is how I die. So we'll see. I got a test pending results. I feel fine for the most part, though. So no need to worry yet.
Excellent. Well, since you're already sharing very current horrors in your life, before we dig into, rewinding the year, any interesting horror stuff that's been on y'all's radar since we last chatted 2 weeks ago for our last episode?
I got a bunch of shit, actually. I think I texted you and our friend Kelly earlier that I watched 6 movies in the last 2 days because I'm insane.
Woof.
And I caught up on a lot of stuff that I missed out on this year, either because it got a weird release or it was too expensive to rent or whatever. So basically, I have a list of year-end Qits for you guys. These are all Qits films that came out this year that I just recently caught up with. I saw Titan, the new Julia Ducournau movie, director of Raw. Really fascinating. It definitely, I need to see it again. It definitely seems like it operates more on a visceral level than a plot level. But it is as edgy as you expect it to be, for sure. I saw The Night House from David Bruckner, who did The Ritual. And I think he did a segment on holidays or something too. And this is kind of him taking a swing at Hellraiser, essentially, which is interesting because he will be directing the new Hellraiser reboot with the trans Pinhead. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Oh, what?
Yeah. And I caught up with Candyman. Patrick, we were talking about this a couple of days ago. That was a big, I think you put it best. It's a weird one. There's so much to like about it. Not the least that it's a lean 90 minutes flat. It's beautiful color scheme. I think it's really like noteworthy and interesting that it takes on sort of the gentrification of Cabrini Green, the projects in Chicago, like more directly and more authentically than the original did. But I also felt it was kind of ham-fisted in a lot of ways. I gather your take was kind of similar on that, Patrick, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to like about it, but boy, yeah, the social commentary plays pretty broadly, and especially that ending just recontextualizes the whole franchise in a way that weirdly undercuts the power of the original. I don't know. It's a very weird beast.
It's pretty weird. And one more I watched, I don't know if you guys have heard of this movie, Censor. It's a British movie set in the early 80s, following a woman who works for the British Film Censor Board. And she's kind of obsessive about her job. It's sort of her life. And it's interesting because she spends all of her waking hours watching what she believes to be deplorable content and finding ways to edit it out of the so-called video nasties in the UK. in the 80s, and it takes kind of a surreal turn halfway through that I wasn't fully on board with, which is why I'm going to give it a Q it. But I would say if this pops up for free on like Shudder or something, definitely check it out. It's really stylish, and it's a concept that I honestly can't believe no one's ever thought of before. It's pretty brilliant. I wish they could have done a little more with it, but overall it was pretty good.
I thought that was in my queue, actually. I must have had it confused with something else because I thought it was in my Shudder queue, but apparently it's not on Shudder.
It might have been on Shudder, actually. I think the other ones I paid to rent, but I think that is on Shudder.
But that is an interesting topic. It reminds me of the stories you hear about the people whose job it is to moderate Facebook and things like that, and they just see horrible stuff and you know, unmentionable things and all kinds of abuses happening and videos and pictures and stuff, and then it's like you get your 15-minute bathroom break and then you get back to it and they go crazy.
They go crazy indeed.
Yeah. I haven't really done anything horror related really in the last couple weeks. It's Christmas time. It's the holiday season. I introduced my family to Christmas Evil. I made them all watch Christmas Evil on Christmas Eve.
You sick fuck, how'd that go?
It was fun. My mom was like, "What is this? What is this?" And my brother was like, "No, I don't like that. I don't like that." But no, it was good. It has big Christmas Eve energy for me. It's kind of like It's a Wonderful Life, you know, where like you got a guy just kind of wandering on Christmas Eve, and it's kind of dour.
Yeah, that's a
maybe a new
that's
tradition in my household.
Grim, grimy movie, but it's a tradition for me too. Fuck, I forgot to mention before we get back to you, Patrick. I'll get to it later when our friends Rowan and Exilia pop in. But I watched all 5 of the original Silent Night, Deadly Night movies over the last 2 weeks.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah, we had like an in-depth conversation about that and about Evil Santa movies in general last time.
Yeah, man. Like I said, I'll maybe get to it later because I could go on easily a half-hour-long rant. It's one of the weirdest, most unpleasant franchises I've ever seen, but that's kind of how I spent my holidays. What about you, Patrick? What have you been catching up on?
Very little, but I did throw on the 1997 classic, Jack Frost. No, not the Michael Keaton one, but the movie that preceded it by a year and is about a serial killer who, in an extremely freakish, the most freakish of freak accidents, is transformed into a large sentient snowman and goes on a killing rampage. It is low budget, but I would say they make the best of the budget. It was one of those things where it was late at night and I was only half paying attention to it. But frankly, when I turned my attention to it, 50% of the time, I always saw something that amused / horrified me. So I was happy with it.
I'm a big fan of that, and I might revisit it next year. Chris, didn't Joe Bob do that a year or two?
I don't remember. If he did, it was before I started watching him. But it does remind me of the Campbell's soup commercial with the snowman who eats the soup and turns out to be a man.
Wait,
do you remember that?
Melt into a man because the soup is hot?
Yeah, it's like because he's come. It's a snowman who like comes in and sits at the dinner table and then like eats the soup and then the soup thaws him out. It's kind of horrifying. It really left a mark on me as a child. Oh God, I just Googled it and like the thumbnail on YouTube is horrifying.
Maybe it was created by the director of Jack Frost because, I mean, spoilers, I guess, but the finale of Jack Frost involves hair dryers, almost an army, yes. I would say, of people attacking Jack Frost with hair dryers.
I don't know. I wish there were like a chat I could drop this in the Twitter space, but maybe I'll just tweet it out on the Amon page.
Yeah, do that
because it's a horrifying commercial.
There's a Jack Frost 2, and the only thing I know of it is that it came out on Blu-ray recently, and the cover, I believe, depicts Jack Frost like on a surfboard, hanging 10. And I'm curious about how that works. If he can be killed by hair dryers, how does he survive the coastal heat?
Just, one of those little life's unanswered questions.
Yeah.
Well, let's get down to business to defeat the Huns. We are here to run down our yearly awards. We every year give out our picks for our favorite movie that we watched for the year for Amon, our least favorite movie that we watched for the year for this podcast, our favorite release, our favorite horror release of the year that was not related to Amon at all, so we just watched it on our own time, favorite thing that came out in 2021. Our favorite horror discovery, so that could be really any media, movie, TV, book, graphic novel, what have you, that we discovered this year, regardless of the year it was released in. And finally, and I would say always most importantly, the Spirit of Jay Award. And if you know, you know. If you don't, we'll explain it later in the episode when we get to actually handing that out. So you guys want to do this?
Unfortunately, I wasn't able to rig up a sound board so I could go do 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 every time someone says Jay. I don't think maybe with more time I can figure out how to get that going into the Twitter space. But yeah, we'll just have to imagine it or hum it this time.
Rest assured, when the episode version of this comes out next week, there will be, later this week, right, Chris?
Yeah, in 2 days.
Yeah, when the episode version of this comes out in 2 days, there will be Jay sound effects aplenty.
But yeah, let's get started. Where do you want to begin?
Well, I guess we might as well get started with the best Amon movie of the year. I think that's generally the weird tradition that we followed in past years. And of course, listeners, you can jump in on this. So we're going to give out our picks for our favorite Amon movie of the year. And if you want to tell us yours, feel free to, I think there's a little button that you push to say, hey, I want to talk. And then we might let you talk.
Yep, I think that's how it works.
All right. Well, Chris, Steven, would one of you like to start with your favorite movie that we watched for this podcast in 2021?
I don't mind going first. I feel like this was an especially rough year as far as the Netflix catalog treated us. But I'm going to go a little deep, and I think I'm going to choose Fear Street 1978 as the most enjoyable movie I watched on Netflix this year.
Oh, wow.
I don't remember what my rating was. It probably wasn't too favorable, but I think like looking back at everything that we had to sit through, that was the most fun, especially because I don't particularly like most slasher movies, especially the summer camp thing, but I like when the vibe of them is done really well. And that had kind of a fun, colorful, summery atmosphere to it, mixed in with the gruesome gags.
Hell yeah, I love that movie. I'm slightly surprised because I thought you were a little lukewarm on that franchise, but glad to see that come back because I was trying to find a place for it in my awards, but it wasn't quite there. Did enjoy that trilogy though.
Yeah, it's actually my pick for favorite Amon movie of the year is the Fear Street trilogy. Yeah, I just said trilogy. If you made me pick, I would say 1994 is my favorite. But you know, are they movies that will go down in horror history as classics? I don't know. I don't care. I had a good time watching them. It was always fun. You know, even if I was left a little lukewarm by some things and some of them, I was always excited to watch the next one. And they all kept me interested with their fun little aesthetics. And, you know, they were fun. They were just fun, good stuff. What can you say? Gave me more joy than anything else we watched, I think, for Amon this year. I guess a runner-up for me would be the Blair Witch Project because I had not seen that before, but it doesn't really feel like an Amon discovery, even though technically it is for me.
Yeah, it was a weird year for me because we watched several movies. I mean, including a couple of true, you know, stone cold horror classics that I had seen before and already loved. So, I mean, it's hard for me to not say Blair Witch. It's hard for me to not say Killer Clowns from Outer Space. It's hard for me to not say Crimson Peak. But as far as something that we watched for the first time this year because of this podcast, I got to go with Pizza. Love this Technicolor possession thriller built around a pizza delivery boy's antics that takes a pretty bizarre twist about halfway through that fully recontextualizes the movie in an extremely fun way that even addresses some of the problems that I had with it in the early going. had a total blast with this movie and really enjoyed talking about it with Steven while Chris was recovering from going under an eye laser beam earlier this year.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. I guess I need to watch that, huh? I didn't know it was that good.
I would recommend it.
I have to.
It was a runner-up for me, actually. That was going to be my second pick. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
You should
All
check
right.
it out.
I will prioritize that for sure.
Love that pizza. And Chris, you know what? While we're on this topic, I also got to throw you a bone and say that Unfriended also wound up at least in contention for me, which I think you'll probably be happy to hear because I was a detractor of that movie for a long time. And then you know what? You broke me down. I watched it on my fucking tablet, and it was so much better and more fun when viewed the way I think it was designed to be experienced.
I almost unfriended you IRL, but now I don't have to.
Well, we're in sync, guys, because that was my number 3.
Oh my God. We literally, I think in the history of this podcast have never agreed more on a topic.
I don't think so. New record.
Because Fear Street certainly is also a runner-up for me. Had a great time with those. All right.
But every coin has two sides, doesn't it?
Yes.
That's my segue for moving on to least favorite, if that's where you wanted to go.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think that's certainly next. The listening audience has been quiet. We haven't heard any favorite Amon movies of the year, so that's all right. Y'all can just sit there and listen, but let us know if you have any thoughts on upcoming topics, like this next one, which is the worst movie that we've watched for every horror movie on Netflix this year. Chris, do you want to go first since Steven led off the last round?
Yeah, actually, we got a request here, though. We do. We got a listener request, so let's grant this and hear from Bree, longtime fan of the show, and we'll let Bree weigh in.
Bree, you're on the air.
What's up, Bree?
Hey there.
Hey.
So yeah, I did actually take notes for this just in case you were going to let us talk.
Oh, hell yeah.
I mean, they're jotted on the back of an envelope, but still. For favorite movie, I did just, like you guys were saying, I didn't want to pick something I'd already seen. Blair Witch Project is one of my top 10 films of all time, and so it felt like a cop-out to say that. So for a movie that you guys introduced me to, I would say #Alive. I still think about that movie a lot.
Yeah, that I was actually when I reviewed the list, that one stood out to me too, especially just because of how this year again has been kind of defined by the pandemic and that whole sort of I'm in my apartment, what do I do, how do I get food sort of thing.
Right.
What did you love about it, Bree? Like what spoke to you about it?
It worked for me on like a tension level, which I find with zombie movies is hard to do anymore just because it's so like everything is so samey. But I think that, doing that sort of claustrophobic, like almost pandemic adjacent thing, and maybe it is very much to do with, the year in which I watched it, but it just felt like it ratcheted that tension up for me. And I think about when he's like trying to climb up to get to the girl's apartment, and I don't know, man, like zombies don't freak me out, but that freaked me out.
It's a good movie. Like I feel like I gave that a Q-it or something along those lines, but I only remember things I liked about that movie. Let's put it that way.
But I will say that my favorite Amon episode, Grandmother's Farm.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm glad someone enjoyed it because the three of us did not enjoy anything to do with that movie.
That's a good segue to my least favorite Amon movie of the year.
Okay, hold on. I'm trying to figure out how to manage the people here, because I'm sure Bree will want to speak again. All right, I'm going to remove you from speakers, but feel free to request again. I just don't know how to best manage this. So it just because I don't think there's like a raising your hand option unless we remove you. So I will remove you, but feel free to raise your hand again, and we will let you speak on the other categories. Thanks.
Thanks for chiming in, Bree. Great to hear your voice, and those were some interesting picks. I totally forgot about #Alive. Was that maybe the first movie we did this year?
It was
Early on.
certainly early in the year, yeah.
Oh, we have It Slays podcast wants to speak. Should we make him wait or give him the floor?
Our friends to the north. Let's give them the floor before we go into our next award. Rowan, Exilia, I assume that's one or both of you, my friends. You are on the air.
Says they're connecting. Oh yeah, they're out in Nova Scotia, so they got a long way to go with that
Yeah,
signal.
the signal's just speeding along there.
Hey, it's Rowan.
It is Rowan. Hello, guys.
What's up?
Hello. The podcast faithful, the Amon faithful may know Rowan from, God damn it, Rowan, what franchise did you review with us? I always forget.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Nightmare on Elm Street. Yes.
That's right. So I had a two-part answer for you. One, my favorite horror movie of the year, and my favorite movie that you guys did for an episode.
Yes. Yes.
So my favorite movie of the year overall was actually Seance from Shudder.
Oh, I haven't
That's
seen
in
that.
my queue. I'm really excited to see it. It seems like it's up my alley, but I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah, it's like a really good just indie slasher whodunit, minimal budget, great music, and I'm all about the soundtrack. And loving soundtracks leads me into what I thought was the best movie you guys reviewed this year, which is the cinematic classic Twilight.
Oh my god, dude. I struggled with just putting Twilight on my best of list as kind of, it's not even a troll answer. I had a great time watching that movie, so I'm glad you brought it into the conversation.
It is it's amazing. It's great acting choices, great music. Keep up the good work.
Keep up the good work to us or to the cast and crew of Twilight?
To both, obviously.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, I still need to go back and watch the remaining films in the Twilight saga. All right, Rowan, thanks for chiming in. Hang out there. We're going to remove you from speakers, but that doesn't mean that you can't, dial back in, call in, buzz us, whatever the term is, if you want to chime in on future categories. We're glad you're here.
Yeah, we got to talk Garbage Day at some point, Rowan. We need you back.
Oh, I kicked him out. So. Oh wait, is it, oh I thought it said he requested again, but nope. All right, cool. Back on track.
All right, well, let's move on. Speaking of garbage days, to our least favorite movie that we watched for Amon this year. Who would like to go first? Who would like to
I
open
already
this
outed
trash can?
myself.
Yeah.
I outed myself, and my cat is going crazy with the blinds. Yeah, Grandmother's Farm. I mean, Jesus fucking Christ. What is it, like 15, 20 minutes we spend with them just driving around, hanging out at the convenience store at the beginning of that movie?
We spent 15 minutes just watching them back out at the convenience store.
That's true,
Back
yeah.
their car out.
That whole thing is one big woof. And I'm all about friends making movies together, but man, like, spend a little time on the script. Put some energy into it, boys.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I've got to say about that one.
Yeah, I can't condemn it that much because it is friends just making movies or something, and you can tell that there's love and heart in it, and I gotta give it some points for that. I don't mind that movie exists. It's just, yeah, it's not for me. It might not be for anybody who is not in the movie. But my least favorite, I kind of have two least favorite movies. One isn't really a movie, and that's Splatter from a couple episodes ago. I just did not, it's just a waste of time, really. But since that was, kind of conceived as just a web series, not really a movie, I guess I'm going to give my least favorite to Apollo 18, which I thought was just more kind of, it was, every year we watch like several movies where it's just like, oh, they just don't have a lot going on and they just bore you to tears. And Apollo 18 was kind of that for me. And especially I was disappointed because I was really looking forward to the outer space thing and the moon setting. And I thought they would do something cool with that, or something more up to my expectations, which maybe weren't realistic. But Apollo 18, can't go for that. No can do.
The only thing I remember about Apollo 18 is you guys talking about Apollo 13.
I love that we had an episode this year that was called Apollo 13 and Apollo 18. And I feel like, yeah, most of that episode was devoted to talking about Apollo 13, which is not a horror movie, nor on Netflix.
Yeah, but you know what? Apollo 13 is more suspenseful than the movie that has like crazy alien rocks that turn into spiders.
True.
So what does that tell you?
True.
It's like I'm watching Kevin Bacon like fuck with a coffee filter for 15 minutes and I'm on the edge of my seat. Meanwhile, there's moon rock spiders crawling into a guy's face and I'm just like sipping my tea. So
I will, I am certainly on the train of Splatter being pretty fucking terrible, Grandmother's Farm being pretty fucking terrible. They were both on my short list, but you know what? I can cut Splatter some slack because, it was a weird experiment for its time. The presentation of it on Netflix is not ideal and not really in keeping with the choose your own adventure aesthetic that they had planned for it. Grandmother's Farm sucks, but I almost just appreciate the audacity of this group of fairly inexperienced filmmakers from the United Arab Emirates putting together this movie that then became a huge hit. So while the movie is not good, I can't really bear any animosity towards it. What I can bear a lot of animosity towards still is the fucking Vatican tapes. Holy
you
shit.
take that back.
Nope. You can have your Blu-ray. I will not fuck with your Blu-ray, but I will come for the Vatican tapes one last time this year. Movie was not good. It's really the worst kind of possession movie, and man, it's weird because it plays into, and I said this on the episode, but it plays into some of the religious conservative tropes and values that underpin all this stuff in the first place in the worst way. It's dull, it's boring. Thematically, to me, it was repulsive. I just, no. Vatican tapes, worst Amon movie of the year for me. But Chris, you will be allowed a rebuttal.
I don't. My rebuttal is in the episode. I'm sad, and I'll be praying for you to realize the error of your ways. I did buy it on Blu-ray, and I did put out the digital code, I think, on our Twitter at the time, and I don't know if anyone ever redeemed it. So
that's
how generous of you.
That's a
dear
surprise.
fans, you might be able to watch Patrick's least favorite movie for free
on Chris's dime.
We'll see. Yeah, on my dime. I'm trying to see if that tweet still exists. If I could just retweet it, but tell you what, I'll get the code up there again real soon, and those of us on Twitter can check it out.
Well, you can. Oh, sorry, Steven, go ahead.
Oh, isn't it correct that the premise of you doing that, Chris, was that movie was no longer on Netflix by the time we put our episode out?
Yes.
I know it's happened a couple times this year.
Yes, that's why I put the code out. I bought the Blu-ray because I wanted to listen to the commentary.
Oh, right. What's his name? Neville Dean, the director from Crank?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
and tell us about that experience again. How rich and rewarding was it?
It was a good commentary, but I was disappointed because the movie was not as tongue-in-cheek as I expected it to be.
You thought there was something deeper going on, maybe.
A little bit.
I mean, I liked the theory that it was actually supposed to be a funny movie, but I don't think it is.
Yeah, that's fine.
Anyways, Chris, hunt for that download code. Bree is back. Bree wants to weigh in on the worst Amon movie of the year, or just the Vatican tapes, or maybe she just wants the download code. Oh wait, never mind. She went away.
Nope.
We put her on there. All right, Bree, you're on the air.
Call her, Bree.
Okay.
Call her, Bree. You are on the air.
I am shocked, absolutely shocked that you guys didn't even runner up worst for Scary Movie 5.
It was hilarious.
Bree coming in hot with that. That's a good point, though. That may have been the nadir of our journey this year.
You know what? I thought about that, but I immediately struck it from the list because you know what? I laughed multiple times. The movie sucks, and there's humor in it that is awful and terrible, but I laughed at that stupid opening scene where they have Charlie Sheen and Lindsay Lohan having sex to yakety sax like they're in Paranormal Activity. it's stupid, but I laughed, and I'm like, okay, I can't take a movie that actually made me laugh and did its job and put that on the list.
You're the reason there are 5 scary movies, Patrick.
No.
People like you.
No. I think not.
I didn't have a problem with Scary Movie. I tried to watch White Chicks
recently. Is a movie that
I've historically been a big proponent of, and it did not play well this time.
Yeah, you think?
Yeah. So I did just tweet that code for Vatican tapes.
Oh.
So go race to be the first person to put it into your digital film library, I guess.
Bree, did you watch Scary Movie 5?
Yeah, I did. Because I'm a moron and I watch whatever you guys tell me to, and I regret it every second of it.
Yeah, I mean the premise is we watch some of these so you don't have to.
Well, I'm a completist. What can I say?
And we love you for
appreciate it.
Yeah.
You know, I can't remember if I mentioned this on the episode, but I'm the real moron here because I thought we were watching the first Scary Movie. I did not notice the the Roman V for 5 in the title when I picked it. So I think I kind of fucked us over there. I think the first Scary Movie would have been a lot more fun.
Yeah, I mean, you really fucked us over. We didn't have the the context for all the plot developments from the preceding 4 Scary Movies. And honestly, I think that was an oversight on our part because we probably would have enjoyed Scary Movie 5 a lot more if we had understood like where the characters had come from in this journey.
I would have appreciated it a lot more if I had seen Mama ever. Because 90% of the plot hinged on you having seen Mama.
True.
Oh well. All right. Well, thanks for that, Bree. I'm going to kick you out again, but feel free to request again.
Yes. All right. So we are moving on to our favorite horror release of 2021. So we're moving beyond movies that we saw just for Amon, and we're going to talk about so in previous years, it was any horror movie of the past year that we loved more than any other. I'm going to tell you all right out the gate that I bent the rules a little bit this year and made it just our favorite horror release of 2021 because my pick is Mike Flanagan's Netflix miniseries, Midnight Mass. Just an absolute masterpiece to me. And it's a weird one because it doesn't fully take on a horror tone until rather late in the series, but goddamn, it is so effective and beautiful and emotional and affecting, thoughtful. I cried. I had goosebumps. I still have like the hairs on the back of my neck are standing up just thinking about the ending of this thing. It's a masterpiece. He just gets better and better. And y'all know if you listen to this podcast, we have some pretty serious Fanigans on here, but he really outdid himself with that one.
I have a question.
Yes.
I have such a backlog of shows to watch, and I have not watched any of Flanagan's shows. I did not see Haunting of Hill House. I did not see the Bly Manor, and I did not watch this. Do you think I'd be doing? I know they're not connected story-wise, but would you suggest I watch Midnight Mass before I watch Haunting of Hill House, or start with Hill House?
I would just say watch whatever sounds most interesting to you. I mean, they are not connected. I guess if you feel invested in seeing how he develops his craft and his craft of making these kind of long form mini series, maxi series, whatever, then sure, watch them in order. But otherwise, just, watch whichever concept sounds most interesting to you first.
Got it.
I'll weigh in, and yeah, I agree with Patrick, but I think if I were to rank his series, I still think Haunting of Hill House is my favorite, and it's probably the most consistently fun out of the 3. Midnight Mass is like, it burns, but it is a very, very slow burn. Like Patrick said, I don't think it really veers into horror until the last 2 or 3 episodes even. It's a lot of really compelling character work, but if you want to get your horror fix and you want some fast and fun frights, maybe start with Hill House.
Yeah, and if I want to get that immersed in the world of Catholicism, I'm going to watch the Vatican tapes.
Damn straight.
Well, we've got more callers on the line here, but let's run through our picks and then turn it over to our next caller. Steven, do you have a favorite horror release of 2021?
Oh, I mean, I think consistently since we've been doing this, I've always had a tie. This was a weird year, especially because I caught up on like a lot of new horror late, as I said when we first started talking. But I'm gonna pick two movies that I think are like the real definition of what a cult movie is, right? Like people think that a cult movie is like a movie that comes out and is bonkers and generates a bunch of conversation, and then it may be low budget, but it kind of takes its place in the mainstream very early. For me, I think a cult movie is something that maybe misses the mark when it comes out, doesn't get a proper release, is misunderstood, and then years later, people start talking about it again.
Like the Vatican tapes.
Like the Vatican. The first one I think is going to be pretty obvious to you guys, but you may disagree with my definition of it being a cult movie. But I mean, Malignant, right? Like,
yes,
that it was just. I don't know what the rewatch value is. I did watch like the first half of it again, not soon after I watched it the first time. But I mean, it's a movie that like I thought I knew everything from the trailer, and I knew nothing. It was just such a fun surprise. There's so much just tongue-in-cheek batshit nonsense going on in it. There's so many references to cult horror films of the past and subversions of tropes. I mean, it's just a lot of fun. And I think it's a movie that, even though it did like hit pretty hard when it came out, I didn't hear as many people talk about it as I thought I would. And I think it might have legs. It might start to grow its fandom over the years. The other one I brought up on the show before, this technically came out in December of 2020, but like barely, and then hit streaming in early 2021, and that's The Empty Man, which I put off seeing despite recommendations from friends for a long time because I thought it was going to be another kind of Slender Man type movie. It's a really terrible title, and it's a movie that I think shows a young director like really making his mark and his stamp. It's got an interesting style to it. It's got a lot of narrative twists and turns, and if nothing else, I think people are going to remember the first 20 minutes of it because it's just a super creepy, effective kind of short film unto itself. So it's a tie between Malignant and The Empty Man for me. What do you got, Chris?
And first I want to just say, like, Malignant was absolutely, obviously on my short list. Fucking loved Malignant, and I'm glad you selected it. Don't know how well it's going to hold up on rewatch. Because it does depend so much on your enjoyment of that twist, but I would love to see it develop a cult following, and I need to finally check out The Empty Man. And now I will stop disrupting Chris sharing his pick.
No problem. So I'm a little sad because I really didn't watch that many. The 2021 caveat on this is really sticking me because I did not watch a lot of stuff that came out this year. Even stuff that I thought came out this year did not. So like I watched Sea Fever this year. I really liked that. That came out in 2019. I watched Alone, which the first half hour of Alone is one of the scariest things I've ever seen in my life. Then it kind of goes downhill. And that's a 2020 film.
Wait, what is Alone?
It's about a woman who's driving in the Pacific Northwest, and it's kind of like the classic, like, oh, there's a car following you on the highway.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
Sort of thing.
I had it mixed up with something else.
It escalates from there, but yeah. The thing is, a lot of the new, like the 2021 movies that people talk about came out on streaming, and I'm never in a rush to watch them because I know they're always going to be there. Like a Shudder original that comes out in 2021, I don't need to watch it this month because it's going to be there next month, and I just never get around to watching it. And I didn't watch that much stuff in the theaters, and I missed the boat on The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, which I'm very sad about. I still plan to see that. So all I'm doing is beating around the bush to justify why I'm saying my favorite movie of the year was Malignant.
Yes.
Because I did watch that. I saw that on streaming and in the theater. I liked it both times. It does hold up a little bit on rewatch. It was let me put it this way. I enjoyed it more on the second viewing than I thought I would, but I kind of dread going back for a third viewing. I mean, I think the joy in that movie is going to be showing it to other people down the road, and dressing up like characters from it for Halloween.
Yeah.
You mean dressing up like? Oh yeah. Well, I guess there are two characters you could technically dress up as that people would recognize.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, Chris. We did talk about your rewatch experience, but I've been thinking about it a little more in the past couple of days, getting ready for this app. And there were so many gags in that movie that I picked up on the first time through, and I just wonder if there's more that I was just like so spellbound by the movie that I didn't notice. Like, one of my favorite things is when our protagonist like drives literally to the edge of a cliff by like fucking Dracula's castle to go root around and look at documents in the basement. And it's like a blink and you miss it moment, but it's so ridiculous and so clearly intentional. Were there any extra LOLs for you the second time through that you didn't?
I wouldn't say there's any extra LOLs.
Okay.
But you can appreciate the misdirects a little bit more, and you can kind of it's like watching a magic trick twice, and you can kind of get more out of it that way. But the gags are still the same.
Okay.
We had a request, but then it flickered away, and we had another request, and it flickered away. I guess we're talking too much.
Yeah, I have the feeling that there's like a button that's very easy to press when you first join this, and you hit it and then realize you've accidentally requested to be in the show, and then you're like, oh shit, and then you leave.
Yeah, you panic.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Well, listeners, we want to hear from you too about your favorite horror releases of 2021. So if you've got any to share with us, please hit the little request and beam in and talk to us. But in the meantime, while we wait for you to think about that, I want to share one runner-up. Just one. Lamb. I fucking loved Lamb. I don't think either of you two, Chris and Steven, have seen it yet.
Nope.
But I cannot wait for you to see it. I was absolutely enraptured by Lamb. It is such a weird, beautiful, brilliant, horrifying fucking movie, and everyone needs to check it out.
It's on this list that I wrote up a couple of days ago of stuff I wanted to catch up on before the year ends. It's one of the last that I haven't gotten to. So hopefully our first app in 2022, we'll be able to have a little discussion about that, Patrick.
Yes. All right. Well, hearing no listener thoughts on your favorite horror releases of 2021, let's move on to our favorite horror discovery of this year. And again, just to kind of describe what this award actually means, it's a horror piece of media from any genre and any year that we discovered this year, not related to Amon, because we do pursue and enjoy this genre outside of just watching every horror movie on Netflix and doing a podcast about it. So Chris, would you like to share your favorite horror discovery of this year?
Yeah, and I talked about it on the show before, but I surprisingly, until this year, had never seen Reanimator.
Oh.
And I finally did, thanks to Joe Bob Briggs, and it was delightful. And I think it's going to be a movie I watch over and over again. It was right up my alley in terms of a horror movie that was, bizarre and hilarious, but not trying too hard to be too hilarious, and very creative and fun and ghoulish and big Halloween energy. Tons of fun. I'm probably preaching to the choir. Everybody here probably knows Reanimator, but it was new to me, and certainly something that I'm going to take with me into the new year and beyond.
I love Reanimator, but you have just reminded me to rewatch it. So thank you.
There you go.
I'm always happy to hear when movies like that were like starting to become cult movies in the 90s and early 2000s, like still hold up and still grab people's attention, because that was a big one for me as a kid. I had like a clamshell, like neon green used VHS copy of it. And I used to watch it all the time and try and break it down and try and figure out how it managed to be so funny while being so brutal and gruesome at the same time. So it delights me to hear that you finally caught up with that, Chris.
Yeah, because a lot of times you watch movies that are acclaimed and you're like, I don't know what that was all about. and that's always sad.
Steven, how about you? Favorite horror discovery?
Yeah, so this was a tough category for me. I wrote down a bunch of movies. I don't have anything outside the realm of film as a discovery. I mean, I'll do two briefly. One is just like a major oversight in my life as a horror fan, and there are reasons for it, but I finally saw Raw this year and was just completely blown away by it, as I knew I would be. But the marketing and the subject matter had put me off for so long. It just seemed like something, I don't know, that wouldn't be very pleasant or rewarding to watch. More of like a human centipede type experience to get through. And I mean, I'm delighted to say it is so much more than that. And the other is, I think I might have talked about this on the show, but I've become kind of obsessed with this British series of like hour-long films called A Ghost Story for Christmas that's been running since I think the 70s. And there's one called Stigma, about a family who lives in the countryside, and they want to have this stone removed from their yard. Well, it turns out the stone is part of this circle of stone monoliths that run through the fields. It's some kind of ancient druid formation, and the housewife who asks to have the thing removed starts just bleeding from her pores after the stone is removed. She's immediately cursed. She's trying to hide it from her family. There's some obvious metaphors in there, but it's one of the truly creepiest and most haunted looking things I've seen in a long time. So something old, something new in my discoveries there.
Excellent.
Patrick.
Yeah, and I will remind also, again, listeners, we want to hear about your best horror discoveries. Request to join the conversation if you want to, and we'll bring you in. But my best horror discovery of this year, I waffled a little bit about choosing the band, the Cult of Space Skull, which is a local band here in the Southeast Michigan, Detroit area that Chris and I saw at Motor City Nightmares this year when we were there. Totally blew our minds. Y'all probably heard us talk about that on an episode a few months ago. But as far as something that's more accessible, as far as an experience that listeners from around the country and around the world could actually check out themselves, I'm going to re-recommend the book Goth by Otsuichi, which is just a weird, creepy, just gets under your skin little novel that feels almost like a series of short stories about these two teenage characters who are both obsessed with murder and death in very different ways, and go through a series of kind of horrifying encounters with murders and deaths that they seek out, and the way their relationship progresses or disintegrates over the course of the book is really fascinating. There are some truly sick twists in this, and it's psychologically disturbing. Like, there are gruesome moments of death, terror, mutilation, etc. that happen, but it's not about the gore. It's about the sort of sociopathic way the characters regard it, and the very clever way that the author kind of writes around what you think is going to happen. This was recommended to me by an Amon listener, and I forget honestly who it was at this point, and I feel bad about that, but really outstanding read, Goth. Bree, let's get Bree back on the air. Yeah, Chris. Yeah.
Call her Bree.
Chris, did you have something to say while we get Bree on the air?
Carla, you are on the air. Yeah, I'll get back to this later, but I did want to say this is live. This is live podcasting, and news just broke.
Oh.
John Madden is dead at age 85.
What the fuck? Who cares?
Whoa! I don't know if there's that much overlap between fans of NFL football and fans of every horror movie on Netflix, but maybe you're a fan of playing video games on Thanksgiving with your extended family, and maybe this means something to you. Well, rest in peace, John Madden. What a play! I had the scoop. I had the scoop. I was in the pocket with the scoop. I had to make a play.
Well, oh my God, this is podcasting without a net for you.
Well, R.I.P. John Madden. Caller Bree is on the line. Bree, what are your thoughts on the passing of John Madden?
Well, as a fellow Midwesterner that absolutely despises football, I really don't care. So, but, rip, I hope he's where he wants to be.
Bree, where are you from? What state are you in?
He's at the 40. He's at the 30. He's at the 20. All right. Come on.
I'm in Wisconsin.
Okay. When I heard your voice for the first time tonight, I was like, oh, absolutely, another Midwesterner.
Wisconsin is probably the state most hostile to people who don't like football, if I had to guess.
Oof, yeah.
And I don't live more than an hour and a half from Green Bay, so it gets really rough.
Oof.
Well, that's you're kind of a kindred spirit to us Michiganders. If you go up into the Upper Peninsula, everyone loves Green Bay, and it's kind of there's a synergy thing going on up there.
Well, Bree,
Anyway.
What's your favorite horror discovery of this year?
So this was a tough choice for me, but I think I'm going to have to go with the unearthed George Romero film, The Amusement Park, which really blew me away. I think you guys might have mentioned it briefly at the beginning of an episode after it got released, but just a truly terrifying commentary on society and the way that they treat elderly. It was amazing.
That's a great pick, Bree. I totally forgot that came out this year. But I did bring that up on the show, and that is a truly creepy, cursed little film. I definitely don't want to get old anyway, but especially after seeing that. And I certainly don't want to be old on a roller coaster with a bunch of zombies.
Yeah, I haven't gotten to that yet, but I will have to check it out. I love Romero, and that sounds fascinating. All right. Thank you, Bree, for sharing your favorite horror discovery. And other listeners,
Gonna
feel
send
free
you back to the further again, but you can come back when you want.
Other listeners, if you have your picks that you'd like to share for any of these awards, please send us a quick request, and we will bring you on the air. But
hold on. All right, so this is what I was going to say. I have a horror discovery. I have a horror discovery from the last 2 weeks that I forgot about, so I didn't mention it during the horror catch-up. But I am now a follower of a Twitter account called Bad Two Sentence Horror, and I guess there's a subreddit where people post 2-sentence horror stories, and this takes the ones that just really don't land and screenshots them and puts them on the Twitter. And some of them I think people are trying to just be funny or stupid, but then some of them you can tell people are trying. Like there's things like, when the blood starts piercing the surface, that's when you know the steak is medium rare. I watched helplessly as Gordon was searing what was once my thigh muscle.
I love this. So that was Two Sentence Horror Stories was turned into a TV series on like one of the major, or maybe one of the lesser networks.
Was it?
Yeah, it might still be going, but I would be way more interested in reading the bad ones.
All right. Well, I'm going to share that link on our Twitter right now too. And we do have another listener request from Nova Scotia, Canada.
who could it be?
We got who could it be?
Rowan.
Oh,
you're on the air.
Yep. Caller, you're on the air.
I'm on the air, and now I'm accompanied by Patrick's arch nemesis. She's sick, but she's here.
Oh no! I know.
Blocker.
End the call.
So
hi, Exilia.
She says hello. My horror discovery was a huge blind spot, probably in not just my collecting of Blu-rays, but just seeing them in general. Is I got my first taste of Hammer horror films this year, and I'm kind of addicted now.
Yes.
Whoa, Rowan, that's a huge blind spot for me too. How many of these have you seen, and do you have a good idea of where I should start?
So I'm probably not the best to ask. So I went out and I blind bought Hammer's version of Phantom of the Opera, which I absolutely loved, highly recommend. He does some great things, kind of changing it from this romance story to this cool narrative, Marxist narrative about capitalism. And I also watched Horror Express, which was fantastic as just a monster flick on a train. What could be better than that? I say just dive in anywhere you want to.
Yeah, there's not
No,
there's not like an interconnected Hammer film universe.
Yeah,
Well, wait. When you say monster on a train, so this might be ringing some bells for him too. I hear
Oh,
Terror
no.
Train, but is there actually a monster? Because I think that's what Terror Train was lacking. I just caught up with that this year.
Oh yeah. This is like just it's kind of a callback to like just kind of 30s to 50s like monster movies. It's just except it's on a train.
I love it.
Steven, you watched Sea Fever, right?
I did. I thought it was really good.
Thank you. I didn't make it, but I recommended it.
I also didn't. Well, I'm. I'm just saying that as a friend, I appreciate your recommendation. I was also confused earlier. I thought that came out this year.
No,
2019. That's crazy.
Yeah, 2019. But imagine Sea Fever, but on a train. The hair just stood up on the back of my neck.
Rail Fever.
Yeah, you struck Steven speechless with that one. He didn't even know what to say.
But no, I actually made Hammer horror is a huge blind spot for me as well. It must be a generational thing. It must be just like what was like, it's kind of in a spot where it's like, it wasn't coming out when we were young and they weren't like, it wasn't on video either or whatever. I don't know why we haven't heard of it or seen as much of it, but I did make my first venture into Hammer horror quite on accident watching a movie called The Resident. Because Hammer horror has like tried to reboot itself in recent years, and there's a movie with Hilary Swank and Jeffrey Dean Morgan, and shockingly Christopher Lee in one of his last roles.
Hell yeah.
About a woman who moves into an apartment and has some issues with the landlord, and maybe not Hammer's best foot forward, but it was kind of fun to see the Hammer logo and see Christopher Lee walking around, making no attempt to do anything, no attempt to make any performance other than his typical, "Oh yes, that room is empty." or whatever. So,
Have you guys
it's all
heard
good.
Christopher Lee's metal music?
Yes.
No.
Specifically his metal Christmas music?
Yes, it's amazing. God bless him. Dude, okay, this is possibly heretical of me, but he's one of those people where I feel so bad saying this, but I don't know. Is Christopher Lee alive or dead? He's dead, right?
Oh, he's incredibly dead.
Okay, I thought so.
He got to be incredible.
Incredibly old, and then he died incredibly long time ago.
Not incredibly a long time ago. It was semi-recent, right?
2015.
Okay, yeah. All right. I feel okay about
Longer
this.
than I thought. I thought he died like a year or two ago. So
Yeah.
I'm shocked all over again and saddened deeply.
Well,
Age 93.
well, Rowan, thank you for that pick. While you're on the line, does Exilia want to chip in, or is she just kind of chilling?
I think she's just waiting for a time to pitch why Silent Night, Deadly Night's the best movie ever.
Well, I mean, we've already talked about it on this program. So, Exilia, if you want to make that pitch, please.
And I will fight you.
I'm okay, thanks.
Uh,
One of the best Christmas horror movies, behind Black Christmas for me.
Wait, okay, so have you seen Christmas Evil?
No.
All right, well, your mind might change next holiday season. We'll see.
Well, and also importantly, have you seen Deadly Games?
No.
Okay.
Deadly Games is basically, I mean, the filmmakers sued Chris Columbus over Home Alone. I mean, they're not that similar, but they're pretty similar. Deadly Games is like a horror Home Alone. It's a blast.
It's great.
Okay, that sounds pretty good. I could get behind that, I think.
How do you
I
feel
wanna
about Silent
see
Night,
them.
Deadly Night 2?
Equally,
AKA, I
it just
like to call it Silent Night, Deadly Night 1.5 because it uses like 70% of the footage from the first movie.
from the first one. It's a masterpiece. That guy is laughing. It really amused me.
I finally need to get on the Silent Night, Deadly Night train and do a franchise watch because we all know I love a good franchise watch through. But you know what? I feel like it's not going to happen until Christmas 2022 because I'm pretty over the holiday season. So
You're gonna have to make
pencil
that
that
your
one in.
goal because I've heard there's like 5 or 6 of them.
Yeah,
So
5.
I'm
Steven
here
just
to-
watched them all.
I'm here to tell you, and I really only need like 2 to 2.5 minutes to do this, but I'm here to tell you, not to sell you on the rest of the franchise, but just to give you an idea of what you're in for. The third movie also uses a lot of footage from the first 2 movies.
of course.
It's directed by Monty Hellman of Two-Lane Blacktop fame, starring James Taylor, one of the great 70s American movies. It features Bill Moseley with his brain exposed in a jar on top of his head for the entire movie, and he's psychic. I think he plays the brother that is the lead of the second movie. And he has a psychic connection with a girl, and it's ridiculous and kind of boring. The fourth movie is completely unconnected from the rest of the franchise. It stars Clint Howard. It involves spontaneous combustion. You see that in the first couple of minutes. And a lot of weird, creepy, goopy, like Naked Lunch-esque centipede creatures designed by Screaming Mad George of Society fame. And then number 5 features Evil Toys and has is a retelling of Pinocchio. And is also completely disconnected from all of the first 4 movies, but also manages to feature Clint Howard in the supporting role.
I'm completely sold. I'm going to watch them all before New Year's.
All right. I'm just telling you, it is not as fun as it sounds, but it's really fucking weird.
Amazing. Well, Rowan and Exilia, thank you for joining us. We're sending you back to the further, but buzz in if you want to chip in on future discussion topics. And also, y'all, we got to point out, because I don't think we've given this pitch yet, but Rowan and Exilia, who you just heard from, are 2 of 4 co-hosts of an amazing horror podcast called It Slays. They're kind of our podcast siblings, or I don't know what. Sure, we'll go with that, podcast siblings. They've been on our show. We've been on their show. It's a great time. If you want to find out why Exilia is my arch enemy, listen to their recent episode where I reviewed Paranormal Activity 1 and 2 with them. It was a really great time. And also, of course, that's a total joke. I love Exilia, and I love Rowan, and I love It Slays. So check them out.
And the magic of Twitter is you can just touch on their little profile picture in the space and check them out that way. You can follow them right now without even leaving our space.
Well,
it's amazing.
But if you're listening to this in podcast form, you cannot do that. So you would just
that's
go and
true.
Google It Slays podcast, because there are only
That's true.
there are only
A very small percentage of our
seven
listener
people
base is in
listening.
the room right now.
Yeah, exactly. So
Okay.
anyways, let's move on to the moment literally everyone, maybe in the world, has been waiting for. It's time to hand out the annual Spirit of Jay Award. And if you don't know who Jay is, this is our annual refresher on Jay, because we talk about Jay, I would say 1 out of every 2 episodes, he comes up somehow or other. He was a character in a very, very early movie that we reviewed early in the history of this show called 1920 London, Fear Strikes Again. Chris, Steven, do you want to offer any insight into Jay, why he's important, or should we just drop in that audio clip from that original episode that explains it all?
I never want to hear that audio clip again.
Okay, so explain Jay then.
But wait, Chris, you said you wanted a soundboard with the audio clip on it.
Oh no, with the
No,
with
the sound,
Oh,
the music.
Sorry.
but not the
This music.
not the but not the but not the description of Jay again. But the movie was 1920 London, Fear Strikes Again, sort of the Insidious of Indian cinema, if
It
you
is.
will. And it's kind of buttoned down, and then at one point the like the Hindu holy man can no longer contain the evil, and they're like, we have to call Jay, and it cuts to it is a kaleidoscopic vision of a man on camelback dressed to the nines.
No, he's not
jewelry.
on camelback. He's walking. He's on foot, and a camel is walking behind him in a very
okay.
dramatic fashion.
I just want to
Okay.
interject. You said kaleidoscopic, but it is not as yellow.
Right. he has more jewelry than you'll find in a Claire's on every appendage of his body, and he is the most noble, heroic, flamboyant exorcist you could ever want from anybody. And so the Spirit of J Award, in my mind, is kind of like who represents the ultimate person who not only makes a brave, heroic stand against evil, up to and including self-sacrifice, as spoiler alert, Jay ultimately does, but has a character that will not fit in the room.
So to me, and part of the beauty of this award is I think the definitions of it vary wildly amongst the three of us. But to me, the Spirit of Jay has nothing to do with heroism, actually. It just has to do with a character so compelling and strange that I want to see more of them, that I feel like I didn't get enough of them in that movie, and I want to see more of it. I'm pretty sure I've picked some bad guys for the Spirit of Jay Award, and I might do it again this year. But
well, we should mention that Jay is a hero, and then he in the course of one movie, he goes from hero to villain, back to hero.
True.
And there's a large section of the movie where every time you see Jay or he does anything, you hear that music cue that we always play.
Yes. So this is your annual explanation of why the fuck we talk about Jay and play that music cue all the time. And he just left an indelible impression on us. I remember when we talked about him the first time, and Steven had at that point in the episode been pretty down on the movie in general, but he was like, I just want to make it clear, I didn't like a lot of things about this movie, but Jay's amazing.
Oh, I lit up like a fucking Christmas tree when we started talking about Jay. And I wanted to add too, this is the time of year when Chris has to work the hardest as an editor on the show, I think, because we've already said Jay conservatively 30 times. That's a lot of drops.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see if there's actually a sound effect on every one of those. I would not blame Chris for being selective about deployment of the music cue.
The first time we did that episode, we actually did the cues live off my laptop.
Oh, that's right.
And so every time we said Jay or said anything punchy, I would play it, and it was a hilarious time, and maybe we'll get back to that someday.
It was.
Do we have a style, like an editing style guide for Jay? Like,
in my head,
cue
there's
the
one.
first 3 times, and after that, it's every 5th time, maybe.
Well, it depends on how much people are saying Jay.
Well, we're saying Jay a lot, is what I'm saying.
It's for comedic effect. It's you do whatever makes sense for comedic effect.
Yeah, you drop it where it's funny.
All right. So who is receiving the Palme d'Or of Amon?
Yeah, with
today?
that lengthy preamble, we will now present this year's Spirit of Jay Awards. And of course, again, listeners, beam in if you want to pick your own Spirit of Jays. But Steven, do you want to start?
Yeah, I mean, I'm more interested in hearing who the new Mr. Banku is. But my pick kind of sucks, honestly. I had a really hard time looking back at this year in Amon film and finding that a character with such charisma, who was so dashing and mysterious and sexy. And the best I could come up with is kind of a split. And I had to think kind of literally about this too, because I was having such a hard time. I was like, okay, priest, exorcist. Let's just try and narrow it down to that, because I don't feel like I have a lot to work with. Maybe you guys will surprise me. So it's a combination of Michael Pena as Father Lozano in the Vatican Tapes.
Oh, do you mean Nick? Do you mean Nick Memphis?
I love it. Keep going.
I mean, just because he's a priest dealing with exorcists and he's sexy, but he doesn't have J energy by any means.
No.
But and then it's a split between him and, maybe recency bias, but I think it's appropriate, Guy Pearce in The Seventh Day.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
He's definitely
that's
got
really
scars.
the obvious
He's got
pick
the scars.
for me.
He's a very well suited man, very much like Jay, I think.
Actually, it's funny because when Chris was describing Jay before, and he was like, he's like this badass, flamboyant, whatever exorcist. I mean, Jay is a maverick exorcist, and the thought entered my mind. I was like, Guy Pearce thinks he's a maverick exorcist. Jay would wipe the floor with Guy Pearce's ass.
Oh, yeah. All right. Yeah, we were talking about how we wanted to see Guy Pearce kill all the rogue priests in a sequel to The Seventh Day. I think it would be better to watch Jay fight Guy Pearce. But it wouldn't be much of a
yes.
movie. It wouldn't be much of a movie. Guy Pearce would be stuck behind the mirror within 10 minutes.
Oh, absolutely. It would be a short film.
Yeah, but he'd have to go around to all of the priests who are in the satanic order that Guy Pearce started.
I mean, it could also be a choose your own adventure web series directed by Joe Dante, where you choose how Jay kills Guy Pearce.
He makes him eat raw meat. he gives him listeria. All right, this is inside baseball at this point.
I feel like we're killing time here. I feel like nobody's confident in their picks. Chris.
I am not.
Oh, I'm super confident. But
your
Chris,
Spirit of Jay nominee.
All right, well, yeah, so obviously Guy Pearce embodies the spirit of Jay, but I figured he was such an obvious choice. I felt obligated to find someone else I could put the spirit of Jay onto, even though there's not really a conversation for me. It's Guy Pearce. But I will give credit to, I don't know the character's name, but it is J.K. Simmons in Dark Skies.
Oh, I wasn't there for that one.
Okay,
Oh, you
runner
were?
up again. We're in sync.
Yeah, well, so J.K. Simmons has kind of a, he has like a he's the he is the who's the guy getting in trouble? He's the Vincent D'Onofrio of Dark Skies, where he shows up a half hour from the end and he says, "This is what's going on, and here's how you should fight it." But he's got character. He's tired. He's he's a bit older than Jay, but maybe Jay would end up like this if he grew into older middle age and slowed down a little bit. But his apartment is covered with newspaper clippings about abductions. He himself gets abducted like every night, and he's okay with it. So. He's a little bit of a maverick. He's outside of mainstream science and astronomy, I'll tell you that. But he's the only person you can trust when they come for you.
Shit, I want to go back and rewatch that movie now just so that I can see the new Jay, one of the new Jays of 2021.
So who do you got for us, Patrick?
Yeah, so and I will remind our listeners in the meantime, if you've got a Spirit of Jay pick, send us a request and we'll put you on the air so you can tell us all about it. But I'm going to hit you with two runners up. And then I'm going to hit you with what I think is fair to say is a groundbreaking choice for the Spirit of Jay Award. So first runner-up, I got to say, Fred Durst in Population 436. I enjoyed his performance beyond all reason, beyond any expectation that I had, and I would like to see more of that character. And that's what defines Spirit of Jay to me. Do I want to see more of the character? Did they leave me wanting more? Second runner-up, Billy Barker from Fear Street. This kid shows up in like a 2-second clip of himself beating his parents to death in a mask with a baseball bat. And I was like, this is a horrifying, and in the context of the film, comical image. I want to see more of this. I didn't go with him for my final pick, though, because I feel pretty confident Netflix is going to give us more Fear Street movies that I don't want, and we're going to learn more about that character that I will turn out to not actually have wanted. Those are my runners-up. My actual pick for the Spirit of Jay Award this year is a two-way split. I'm picking two characters.
What the hell is going on here? You got more picks than Obama.
Listen. It's going to make sense. It's thematically, there's thematic consistency here. I give this award to Zombie Clancy Brown from Pet Sematary 2 and Evil Patrick Wilson from Insidious Chapter 2 because I want to see them team up. I want more of them jointly. I want their insane, chaotic energy in a movie together. They are the Spirit of Jay 2021.
Wow.
Wowee.
Yep.
That's a lot.
Yep.
I haven't seen that many picks since the defensive strategy of John Madden in his prime.
R.I.P. I disagree with all four of your picks, but I mean, I have choice because we each get a nomination.
Wait, I'm so curious. No. How do you disagree? Basically, you just mean you don't want to see more of any of those.
I don't. Well, I might watch more of Patrick Wilson, but I feel like it might be too much of a good thing. Like part of me wants a whole movie where he's like that, but how do you structure that in a way that's emotionally satisfying? Fred Durst, I totally forgot we watched a Fred Durst movie this year.
Do you remember anything about that movie? Oh, we were in agreement actually about this. You also enjoyed Fred Durst's performance.
I don't doubt you. I just don't remember anything about it. But that's part of the journey.
Trust me, I barely did either. I was listening to our own episode earlier today to remind myself what the hell happened in Population 436.
So, no shade.
Wow.
I just feel like the Spirited Jay should have some nobility and honor about him. Not you know.
And Clancy Brown.
Yeah, I can't get on board with giving Clancy Brown the Spirited Jay.
The man or that character.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. He's probably a great guy.
Probably.
Wild fucking performance, though. I was really struggling with trying to fit Pet Sematary 2 in somewhere on my list for these categories, and it just didn't happen. So I'm glad it came up.
Yes. All right. Well, I don't think we have any more listener feedback. No one found the Spirit of Jay in this year of our Lord 2021, which, I don't blame you all. It was a fairly joyless and Jay-less year.
It was difficult.
Yeah.
It was difficult.
Yeah.
It would have been easier with Jay by our side, though.
It would have.
1920 movie.
Yeah, that's true.
One of the greatest sorrows of my life is knowing that we're never going to see that character of Jay again, probably.
Dude,
maybe there'll be some merger. Maybe Disney will buy every Bollywood studio, and then in 30 fucking years, when they've scraped the bottom of the barrel on Marvel, they'll be like, let's add this guy Jay that we own the rights to the Marvel universe.
Well, God knows we're doing our part. We've been pounding the pavement for this guy for 3-4 years now.
Yeah.
It's getting the word out.
It's a 3-person crusade. I mean, I think really in the year 2022, we need to make a New Year's resolution to get that actor, don't know his name, we need to get him on the show. I want to talk to him exclusively. And I mean, he's, as far as I know, a pretty big star. I want to talk to him exclusively about 1920 London, Fear Strikes Again.
I don't think he speaks English.
I was just going to say, we've talked about this before, but we've not confirmed that.
Yeah.
We don't know that.
Yeah, let's not make
we
that
can get
judgment.
an interpreter. We can get an interpreter.
Yeah.
It's on us. It's not his fault he doesn't know English. It's our fault for not knowing Hindi.
Yes.
Well, God, and imagine trying to interpret us.
I'm going to learn Hindi so we can interview Jay.
Okay, I like this strategy.
Download Duolingo right now.
2022 resolution, Chris learns Hindi for us. 2023 resolution, we talk to Jay.
All right.
Glad we're all agreed.
Well, that's great.
What a year. What a year it's been.
What a year it's been. Thank you all for joining us for the year-end wrap. It's been a blast. It's been a blast actually doing it with some listener input. This was super fun. Glad we got to try out Twitter Spaces, and it was, I would say, much more successful really than our semi-disastrous but fun Facebook Live and Instagram Live from earlier this year.
This was fun. Yeah, I'd like to do this again, probably, maybe more casually. Just come on from time to time, talk about something, talk about a topic. I don't know.
Sure.
This was good. I like doing the Larry King. I like saying, caller, you're there. You're on the air, caller.
I didn't notice that you enjoyed doing that throughout this episode.
It was unclear to me. We haven't touched on this, guys. I think this is an important part of our year-end shows. Have you had a cup of Old Lang Syne yet?
Oh, did I not mention that at the beginning of this episode? I thought I made that joke right out the gate. Oh, I've been drinking Old Lang Syne straight through, just pounding Old Lang Synes.
Just cups of kindness, double-fisted.
I'll have one as soon as we're done.
Excellent. Well, Chris, you have a sacred responsibility before we wrap up here to tell us what we're watching next episode.
I have to bring us into the new year. It's like being the first person to touch a brand new baby. And I'm terrified. It's almost too much responsibility for me. But I do have a pick for you. I've decided that for next episode, we are going to watch 122. I decided to go back to the start because there was a time when we went in alphabetical order, and there was a time when you could look at the first 20 movies on Netflix, and we had watched and reviewed all of them, and we've gotten pretty far away from that. So I said, you know what? Let's go back to the beginning of the alphabet and do the first movie that we haven't seen, and it's called 122, and it's from Egypt.
Oh,
nice.
Wow. That's new territory for us.
What's the synopsis?
It says, after an awful accident, a couple admitted to a grisly hospital, which that's the best kind of hospital, are separated and must find each other to escape before death finds them.
Okay.
I mean,
So
I'm
I don't know.
intrigued.
I think it might be like there is an evil, like it's like they're killing people in this hospital. They're harvesting organs or something. We'll see.
I'm down. We'll find out. We're going to watch 122. Is that it? 122?
122.
We're going to watch 122 in 2022.
Is it 122 like the time? Like it's
No.
122 or it's just
122.
Okay. Huh. Interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder if
New
this
Year,
is like a Treehouse of Horror episode of The Simpsons where they're killing off kids in the cafeteria to make food for everyone else.
Oh, that sounds so good. I've never seen that.
Oh, it's great. It's actually kind of scary for a cartoon.
It sounds like it. Jesus.
All right. Well, we will be back in 2 weeks for those of you listening to this on your podcast app with a discussion and review of 122. Thanks to everyone for joining us for our year-end episode. Thanks to you, those of you who joined us on Twitter Space, beamed in, shared your favorites of the year. And thank you, Chris and Steven, for doing this with me every 2 weeks. I love you guys and can't wait to watch some more crazy-ass Netflix horror movies in 2022.
I love you too, but I'm also contractually obligated to say that.
All right.
All right.
Thank you all for joining us. It's been fun.
This has been great.
All right. Well, for every horror movie on Netflix, I'm Patrick.
I'm Chris.
I'm Steven.
And we will see you next year. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.